Is the two-party system as bad as everyone seems to think? What would happen if we changed it? My name is Joe Postell. I'm an associate professor of politics at Hillsdale College, and we're going to spend a few minutes talking about these two questions. So why do we have a two-party system in America? Wouldn't it be better if we had more options to choose from come election time? America has a two-party system because of this concept that's often referred to as first-past-the-post political system. What that means is that whoever finishes first in a congressional district or first in a state in the Electoral College wins all of the representation from that district or state. It's a winner-take-all system. And the simple effect of this design is that third parties, which receive a lower proportion of the vote, are actually spoilers. They take away votes from the particular major party that they actually would support if they had to choose between the two parties. For instance, if you are inclined to vote for the Green Party in America, you're probably more closely aligned with the Democratic Party than you are with the Republican Party. But every vote you cast for a Green Party candidate, even if that candidate gets 5 or 6% of the vote, is actually taking votes away from the Democratic candidate. And if the Republican candidate finishes first, that candidate gets all of the representation. And so each party has an incentive to coalesce or combine all of its votes under a single party behind a single candidate in order to try to finish first in that election. And this essentially explains why we have a two-party system in America. It doesn't have to be this way. The Constitution doesn't mandate single-member congressional district. It doesn't mandate winner-take-all in the Electoral College. And in fact, 2 states in our Electoral College system today, Maine and Nebraska, don't give all of their Electoral College votes to the candidate that finishes first in that state for president. States could, if they wanted to, set up proportional representation, where a minor party would actually get a number of representatives proportional to the vote that they get in the last election. But that's not the system we currently have, and until those laws change, we will have a system that necessarily produces a two-party system. So is it a good thing that we have a two-party system in this country? What are the consequences of the fact that we only have 2 parties? In my view, the two-party system has some very positive effects for how politics works in America. The parties really are incentivized to try to capture a larger number of the voters and to appeal to a larger number of the voters in order to get to a majority in Congress or a majority in the Electoral College. This means that in addition to winning their hardcore supporters that are truly in favor of their policies, parties have to appeal to voters that are more lukewarm about those parties. In other words, parties have to appeal to moderates in order to win a majority in a two-party system. This means that the 2 parties we have today, Republican and Democratic parties, the 2 major parties we have today, are really big coalitions of lots of different smaller parties. We really do have a kind of multi-party system in America. It's just contained within our two-party system. For instance, in Congress, the Republican Party is composed of many different caucuses. You might have heard of the Freedom Caucus, which is the more conservative part of the Republican Party. Perhaps you've heard of the Squad, a more left-leaning portion of the Democratic Party represented in Congress. But there are also so-called blue dogs, more moderate members of the Democratic Party. There are Main Street Republicans, more moderate members of the Republican Party. They're all called Republicans, or they're all called Democrats, but they have very different views politically. And you see the two-party system, instead of allowing these different caucuses to belong to different parties, really forces the parties to appeal to a broader coalition of voters and a broader variety of interests, including moderate voters and moderate interests. It ensures that American government doesn't go too far in one direction or the other. But people look at American politics today and they say, isn't the opposite happening? Aren't the Republican and Democratic Party today actually radicalizing our politics? Aren't they polarizing us into camps of blue team and red team? They're constantly fighting with each other and constantly demonizing each other. And the 2 most important things here to note are party sorting and direct primaries. Party sorting is the phenomenon where voters move to places where people live like them, think like them, and vote like them. We're a much more mobile society than we've been in the past. Americans can move from blue districts to red districts or red districts to blue districts in order to live among people who share their views, their values, and their preferences. This, of course, has resulted in candidates coming from those districts and those states who are much more far to the left and far to the right. On top of this, you have the direct primary. Today in America, we nominate our candidates through a direct election of the voters in a primary before the general election happens between the candidates from the two main parties. When you have party sorting and direct primaries, most people are coming from congressional districts that are safe. They don't worry so much about losing a general election. What they really worry about is losing their primaries because they compromised too much, because they were too moderate, because they worked too much with other people to get things done in Washington. The consequence of these two factors has been to produce a party system that is less moderate and less prone to bargaining and compromise than the two-party system should be in theory. But the solution to this is not to abandon the two-party system itself. It's rather to restore the virtues of the two-party system by dealing with these things, as opposed to scrapping the system altogether. It's important to have mechanisms for coalition building. It's important to have mechanisms like political parties that bring people of different points of view together to work together for common goals. So given this circumstance, what is it that we can do as citizens to ensure that our views are better represented, that we feel happier about the choices that we're presented with in this country? There's a famous political scientist who said, democracy does not happen between the parties. Democracy happens within the parties. That is to say, if you don't think that the two-party system currently reflects your point of view, the best thing you can do is to get involved inside the party that more closely reflects your point of view, and to try to reform it from the inside. Parties are highly responsive to the people that they rely on for votes. And people who get involved in parties at the grassroots level, the local level, the state level, becoming delegates to the party conventions, helping to formulate the party platforms, and to nominate the party's candidates, can make a large difference in the direction that that party takes in the future. The best thing to do if you are a citizen who is frustrated by the two-party system is not just to show up on election day and cast your vote for one party or the other, but to show up more consistently over time to ensure that one of the two parties is more reflective of your point of view, and to work with other people to make sure that that party truly represents the views of the people it is supposed to serve.